On today's special episode of the Grind Hours Podcast, episode 200, we have a first. A Star Wars edition of the Grind Hours Podcast, and perhaps the biggest, actually not perhaps, he is the biggest Star Wars fan that I know besides myself. It's my brother. This is the first face-to-face podcast that I've done since quarantine, so it's good. It's good to have somebody sitting in the chair, and I've wanted to have you on this podcast since the inception. I just couldn't nail down what to talk about, and I think with where Star Wars is right now with Disney, I think it's the perfect time to have you on, because it's right before the beginning of the second season of Mandalorian. It's before the teaser or announcement of what they're doing with the Obi-Wan Kenobi show and the 3 movies in 2024, 5, and 6. Is that correct?
I think so for right now, yeah.
So why don't you, actually, I'm doing terrible at introducing you. So name, and I guess that's it, because you are my brother. So you've been listening to me do this from next door for 2.5 years. That's my brother Vinny. I don't know what else you want to introduce yourself as, but
No, I've heard the podcast, so I know the deal.
So we got on about Favreau and Jon Favreau, and why am I blanking on the other dude's name?
Dave Faloni.
And Dave Faloni. Their influence in the canon of Star Wars, which, if you didn't know, they were the creators of the Clone Wars. All the Clone Wars, or did they hop on halfway through?
I believe Jon Favreau was doing the animation for the Clone Wars.
The entire time.
From the beginning, yeah, because he was originally on Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Mm-hmm.
And then he got called over to do the Clone Wars for Disney. And then George Lucas kind of took him under his wing, because if you watch on Disney Plus the gallery of Mandalorian, and if you watch the behind the scenes of that, they go into how Dave Filoni really was George Lucas's basically apprentice into taking over his vision moving forward into the Disney company, the Disney canon now.
Well, it's canon. It's not even canon. It's just canon at this point.
Well, the canon changed.
Well, the canon changes every 3 or 4 years, but
because of because of Disney.
Right, but still, if you have Ahsoka talking to Rey at the end of episode 9, that's true canon. If you have it,
yeah.
If you have something from either the book, episode 9, there's a lot of things from extended canon that I don't think a lot of people know about unless they dig deep into the YouTube. Where Kylo was in the first part of episode 9, he's actually really on Mustafar, and it gets into that planet regrowing from its fracking days when we see it in episode 3, so it's 50 years or so after episode 3, and when the Separatists were using the mine for its... I'm getting way too inside baseball here, but I enjoy the way that those two men have taken over the canon of Star Wars and implemented it nicely into the films.
I think that they did it okay in the films. I think it really could have been...
Well, you don't like episode 9 or episode 8.
All right, I was going to leave my opinion of it.
No,
but
that's why I brought you here.
Episode 9, the thing is, they're all individually very good. in my opinion. Like, I think they're all it's their own thing. They're fine. Like, 7 is just a copy of New Hope, essentially.
It is.
And then 8 tried to go the different way. And then not somewhere, like, in the middle. Like, they tried to go a little weird, but, like, kind of stay at home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they brought back Palpatine and everything.
They also
they tied in some of the canon, and, like, tried to do their best and fix... Well, J.J. Abrams tried to fix his own vision, but if they should have stuck with J.J. the whole way, and I think it would tie together a little bit better.
Yeah, but if you...
That's what I think.
It would have, but think of the backlash if they said we're going to postpone the production of Episode 8 because of things with J.J. We can't put it out.
Well, he wasn't originally supposed to come back for 9, I don't believe.
No, he was supposed to do all 3. And then scheduling conflicts with another one of his movies made him not be able to direct 8.
Right, and then I thought they were going to do 3 different directors for all 3 movies.
No, then he fulfilled his contract and finished 9.
Yeah.
So if they postponed 8, who knows what that's going to look like? And, I mean, who knows what 9 looks like if he directs 8? Because I don't...
That's why I think you bring in Jon Favreau.
Well, yeah.
And then have Dave Faloni with
assist him.
Right.
And, yeah. That would have been the best case scenario. And I think that's what they're going to do with everything moving forward in terms of... I think they're going to be handling the TV aspect.
Oh, 100%. I think they
Throughout.
definitely have that. But I think that to make sure that everything stays true to Star Wars and, like, just that. Because the Star Wars, like, saga is really, like... Or, like, the Skywalker saga is really kind of over now. Like, 1 through 9, that's, like... It's kind of filled. They're going to do The Mandalorian, Obi-Wan, some other shows. Maybe a Rebels re-up. But,
I'd like that.
I would like that, too. But they're going to try and move away, like, into other storylines now and stuff like that.
That's
other
fun.
eras. And I think the best way to do that is with, like, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni.
Well, Rey, you have to have Rey in whatever movie you make next. Daisy Ridley has to come back as Rey. Because that's the connective tissue. She's the connective...
I don't think that's what's going to happen.
No, but she's the connective tissue here.
From
9 into 10.
Well, there's not going to be a 10.
Or...
It's done. It's going to be a whole... It's going to be... You know how there's like Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
And then there's The Hobbit.
Right.
They're going to make The Hobbit now. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think I just found the name of the episode. So it's prequel stuff. They're going to have...
They're going to go back in time, I think.
To Palpatine and Plagueis and all that sort of stuff.
No.
Way, way back?
Like 500 years is what I've heard.
Huh. So
that's like Yoda, potentially.
Oh.
Being like a Jedi, just casually.
Oh. So not... Well, that would make it difficult. Because you got Baby Yoda, or we don't really
But there
know
wasn't
the
really
name of...
war then either. They were more protectors of the peace too.
Right.
But then they might do like smugglers and stuff like that. Like rogue Jedi maybe. Who knows?
Well, we're still waiting on a Boba Fett standalone. Whatever.
I'm waiting for Boba Fett to show up in The Mandalorian.
That'll happen. I think that's happening in Season 2.
Season 2 has a lot of potential.
Well, they have Ahsoka. They have... How the hell does... What's-his-face get the Darksaber?
Yeah.
They have to iron that out. And... I mean, Boba Fett is lurking. I thought... You know who I thought... Remember at the end of, I think it was the 4th episode, when they go back to Tatooine?
Yeah, and then there's the guy walking at the end.
Right.
That's when people thought it was
I
Boba
think
Fett.
it's Boba Fett.
I mean...
They didn't show him.
They still haven't said anything about that. So.
But that's what I think it was. I think it was, we hear you, we're listening, we're going to get to it.
Oh, I have no doubt that Dave Filoni will touch it. I mean, I know, like, I sound like I'm in love with Dave Filoni.
You are. You are.
Yeah, like, I think he's a smart guy. I think he knows what he's doing. I think as like a story, like as far as the story goes, I think he knows what the fans want because he's a fan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he knows what the fans want because he is a true fan of Star Wars, and that's why George Lucas picked him, and George Lucas taught him and told him everything he knows. And if you go to the gallery of Disney Plus, not an ad by the way, not sponsored by Disney Plus.
No. Hopefully one day.
But if you go to the gallery of Disney Plus and for The Mandalorian and you see John or Dave Filoni talk about just how the prequels are done by George Lucas, and just like he talks about the Duel of Fates and what the meaning of the Duel of Fates is, and just how Duel of Fates is really the meaning of like the fate of Anakin, and like that battle like is about how like if Qui-Gon wins and he'll raise this kid to be like a great Jedi because he was way ahead of the council,
right?
And understood that it was okay to have like feelings and attachments and stuff like that, and would have guided Anakin in a better way than Obi-Wan did, because Obi-Wan was more of a brother than like a father.
I'm still waiting for, in the Obi-Wan TV show, Qui-Gon Jinn to pop up
as a Force Ghost.
And they
did it in the Clone Wars a little bit.
Yes, but if they get, Liam Neeson has to come back. If they're doing this live action with real people, he has to come back and play Qui-Gon if they go that. They have to.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, then episode 3 doesn't mean anything at the end. Like, that doesn't mean anything.
I mean, it does still, because, I
thought they were going to do it Rebels.
It means something based off of the original stuff, because Obi-Wan learns how to become a Force Ghost. Because people didn't do that. That wasn't like a thing. And
right.
Qui-Gon made it a thing.
Right, so they have to, in some way, Liam Neeson has to play that character.
He has to learn. Well, I mean, if you've watched the Clone Wars, I mean, alright, so this is kind of...
Go ahead.
My understanding, because, alright, again, I'm going to go back to Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. But they did that already. They did it in the Clone Wars with Yoda. They took Yoda on that journey. Did you watch the end?
Yes.
He goes on like the journey like of the Force basically, and kind of becomes like understanding of where Qui-Gon was, and he talks to Qui-Gon, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly.
You are.
And he kind of learns how to touch into the Force, like in a different way, into like staying, like your presence staying in the Force, and like basically eternal life. And then at the end, Yoda says he has training for him, and so Yoda learns it and then teaches it to Obi-Wan. He takes him to Dagobah because that's where Yoda learned it too, and that's why Yoda stays there.
Well, I mean, maybe it's just because I'm fanboying over, like, because that's the one thing that I don't think Episode 1 gets enough credit for, is setting up, not perfectly, because it is a very flawed movie, but it sets up the dichotomy between the Council and Anakin very well. Because Anakin is more Qui-Gon than anything, than anyone that's ever been in the Council before. So, setting that up, I think, was done masterfully. But, I mean...
Well, the thing was, Anakin was, like, obsessed with being on the Council.
Right.
When Qui-Gon wasn't on the Council. Like,
they kicked him off because of...
He didn't want to be on the Council. He went against the Council all the time. And that's why... That's what he would have taught Anakin, is that, like, you don't need to be on the Council. Like, you don't need their approval. Like, Anakin always just saw it for like the council's approval and didn't understand that he can like. I mean, well, there was also a war going on too, so there was that as well. So I mean, there's factors, I guess. It's hard to. I mean, there's a lot of like stuff to think about, but I think Qui-Gon definitely, with Anakin, would have changed the outcome.
Well, it's a different story.
Right.
And episode 3 doesn't happen, and then 4, 5, and 6 don't happen. So, I mean,
potentially even episode 2 doesn't happen because, I mean, in that time that we missed between, it was like 10 years.
Right.
Or not 10 years, like.
Is it 8?
I think it's 8 years, something like that.
Because doesn't Padme say I haven't seen you in like 8 years?
I think it was 10 and then it becomes 18 maybe.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Something. Who cares? He becomes older.
Right.
And then in that time.
He trains as a Jedi. Yeah. It's
like
the whole
Dooku becomes, because Dooku was Qui-Gon's master.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so Dooku went to the dark side, and then
that's another interesting story that I think.
Who's the guy that orders the clones? I can't think of his name right now.
Django?
No, it was a
Jedi.
It was a Jedi.
Oh.
No, it was
God. I know.
Sifo Dyas.
Yes.
So, and Sifo Dyas orders the clones because he saw the Clone Wars coming in from the future, or from the because he had visions of the future and saw great destruction. So he ordered the clones, but then he was killed by Dooku.
That's another story that I think should be played out in some form.
Well, I mean,
Dooku.
they did it okay. Oh, Dooku. Well, they have novels and stuff.
Well,
like
yeah,
that.
but I want it in television format, or movie or even touched on movie format in some.
I think
like a whole Sith movie would be awesome.
I mean, with the technology, with the technology that the Mandalorian is using, it opens up more live action for Star Wars for TV, especially with a Disney budget.
Yes,
but
Disney has money.
I still think for Star Wars, because there's so many like aliens and stuff, it's a lot better to implement it through animation. Like, there's a lot more you could do with Star Wars animation, in my opinion. At least right now, without using CGI, because no one likes CGI.
You're right.
And CGI is expensive.
However,
animation is cheap.
However, they would have to, for the fight scenes, they would have to do that live action. And do a motion capture.
Well, they can do motion capture. They don't have to. They did it in Clone Wars for a long time.
I think they have.
But if they could do it motion capture because they did it this year for Clone Wars.
Right, with the Ahsoka and Darth Maul fight.
Darth Maul fight. So
in the best episode of the Clone Wars ever.
Yeah, so they definitely could do that. Right. So I think there's a lot of potential with animation for Star Wars.
On that note, let's take a quick break. We'll talk about Feed Hudson Valley, and we'll be right back. Feed Hudson Valley is a regional food rescue and harvesting network in the Hudson Valley operating through Dutchess, Orange, Ulster, Columbia, Greene, Putnam, and Sullivan counties. It links donors of prepared but unserved food and fresh produce with nonprofits and food assistant programs through an app-assisted network of food donors, volunteers, and feeding agencies. Feed Hudson Valley facilitates the harvesting, processing, and distribution of locally grown or produced agricultural products, self-stable food donations, and prepared nutritious foods. The app used is called Chow Match, and it is easy for volunteers to download and use. Among the donors are restaurants, farms, food makers, stores, hospitals, and universities. The food assistant programs include food pantries, soup kitchens, and shelters. Volunteers are matched through the Chow Match app when a donation is available. They can indicate that they are available to make a run and then pick it up for a donor and deliver it to the agency. The Feed Hudson Valley Network currently includes over 300 volunteers, 130 donors, and 95 receiving agencies. Last year, on average, Feed Hudson Valley rescued and redirected over 12,000 pounds of food each month. Feed Hudson Valley could use more donors and volunteers. To learn more and sign up, visit feedhv.org. Again, that's feedhv.org. One more time, spelled out, feedhv.org. Now back to the podcast. All right. So before the break, we were briefly talking about animation. I want to jump into Rebels because, in my opinion, it's better than Clone Wars. The totality of the story and the direction that with it tying into Clone Wars perfectly, and Episode 4 with some of the stuff that they did with Mon Mothma and Leia and Organa. I think it is a superior show because they built a separate entity damn near perfectly and still put it and fit it into canon.
I agree. I mean, I always the one thing I always kind of take on Rebels for people that is that it's kind of like kiddie. It's a little corny sometimes, and it's definitely more of a kid show, but
it was made for Cartoon Network.
Right. Well, it's made for Disney.
Was it put on Disney XD and not Cartoon Network?
Yeah, it's Disney. It's on Disney.
Well, I mean, Clone Wars.
Wait, was it? No, I don't know now.
Clone Wars.
I might be wrong. I thought it was on Disney.
The first 5 seasons of Clone Wars, or first 4 seasons of Clone Wars, were on Cartoon Network. And then Disney bought the rights of it through the deal that they did with George Lucas.
Yeah, and then Rebels was after that.
Right. So Rebels would have been on Disney.
Right. XD, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
So yeah, that's definitely made for
kids.
It's kids oriented. It still has
the aspect of Star Wars. So I think it really does stay true to Star Wars by making a unique story. And that's why it's better than Clone Wars, because it's more of a story, whereas Clone Wars, it's just kind of you jump all over place. It's connected, but it's not as connected, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, there's 20.
You watch Ezra grow. You're not really watching Anakin or Obi-Wan
Ahsoka kind of.
Ahsoka a little bit, yeah.
Kind of.
But still not even, because they still do a lot of other stuff with a lot of other characters. They move around a little bit. They jump back and forth. They do dark side episodes. So, whereas in Rebels, they're always focusing on the, what are they? Not Phoenix Squad. Are they Phoenix Squad?
Yes.
No, they're...
Well, when they get to the rebellion, they are Phoenix Squadron.
Oh, maybe they are. Yeah. So, they focus on the Spectre, the Ghost team or whatever.
Everything
Ezra and Kanan.
And everything you said in that sentence was correct. That they do. It is Spectre. There is the Ghost is the mini ship.
Yeah.
And they are the Phoenix Squadron when they get to the rebellion. Which do they? Who is Kanan's master again? Because he dies or she dies in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I don't remember her name. It's... I'm not going to remember her name. I'm just not.
But...
You need the guy from the Joe Rogan podcast. Yeah. The guy that looks everything up.
I need a researcher. I need to get an intern and have a researcher.
What's that guy's name?
But... I didn't think I was gonna like Rebels either, at first.
I know what you mean.
Because it was...
I kind of liked it from the beginning.
I was skeptical because it was so brand new, and that's to be expected. And I think that's why the TV can take more chances with stuff like that, because you can draw out the storyline better in a 22 episode, 12 episode sort of format than a 2.5, 3 hour film.
Right. And I think that they're going to go, that's what Star Wars
is going to become, is just TV shows?
More of just TV shows. I think a lot of companies are realizing that people aren't as in like movies. I mean, people still like movies, but a lot of people would rather just sit at home. I feel like now, and watch.
Especially with the quarantine, they're now.
No, but everyone just wants to watch it on their. They want it on Netflix or Disney Plus. They want to stream it, so that's what they're gonna do. They're just gonna stream stuff. Why?
Because I mean, you can't have a $300 million budget for a TV show. I mean, you could, but we haven't seen that. What that would look like.
But it's possible.
I mean, maybe they do that with.
I mean, The Mandalorian. It looks like a movie, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like it's shot amazingly, and if you, I mean, I'm gonna go back to the gallery. If you go and look at the behind the scenes of the production of how they do it, it's incredible with the technology they have to like be able to make it look realistic. Because they're not using green screen, like.
No, they're on location.
Right, but they do like it's like this crazy. Like, they make a scene of a bunch of pixels. Like, like if they go to Tatooine, they'll have the backdrop of Tatooine. And it's like 100 million pictures. And it looks like you're standing on Tatooine right there.
Oh, so it's... Alright.
It's like insane.
I guess I'm going to have to... I didn't watch that episode. I watched a little bit of the interview that they did with Faloni about him and his relationship with George Lucas. And do you think he's coming back, George Lucas, in any form?
I think...
Do you think Disney will hire him back?
I mean, George Lucas, he didn't go to the last, movie, right? He didn't go to the...
I don't think he went to the premiere of episode 9. I don't believe so.
Yeah, so I don't know how good his relationship is with Disney itself. I know his relationship with Dave Faloni is pretty good, as far as I know.
Well, I think that would be if they rekindled that relationship between him and Disney. And I don't know if it's just strictly business and they struck a check and shook hands and said, okay.
This is ours. I think that's really what I think I think George Lucas and Disney have different
opinions of
visions for Star Wars, in my opinion.
I think I would still rekindle the relationship and get him involved somehow, especially if they're going to do another movie, because the way that the newest trilogy ended, it leaves a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. I mean, you and I walked out of the opening night hating it and cursing at it and saying they could have went this direction, that direction, and why the fuck do we have to bring back Palpatine?
I mean, they could bring back Palpatine again now. You know what I'm saying? Now, apparently he's just invincible.
He's immortal. They haven't introduced Force Sith Ghost.
Because it's not a thing.
What do you mean? So,
you know how you have, the rule of 2?
Yes.
You've heard that. So, there's always 2.
2 Sith and 2 Jedi, right?
No, well, not Jedi.
2 Force users?
No, so...
the Sith.
The Sith is the rule of 2.
You have to have
there's a master and apprentice. Right. That's it. There's no one else.
Right.
And then you can, say, well, there's, they have assassins and stuff, and, with the Inquisitors. They have Inquisitors, there's General Grievous, and, Ventress and stuff. Besides that, there's always a master and apprentice. Sidious and Maul.
Right.
And then it's Sidious and Dooku, and then Sidious and Vader. And all the other, and the whole thing of the Sith is that the apprentice is supposed to succeed the master, then kill the master.
Right.
And then taking all of his
power
and Sith within him. So all the Sith are living within the master.
Right.
Potentially. So there's no ghost. It's just they're all living in this one being potentially.
All right.
So, like, you know how Palpatine was saying, if you strike me down,
Right.
all
The
Sith will live in you.
Yes.
So, with Rey and with Luke. So, I mean, there's not going to be a Force Ghost, probably. They have the temples, though, which all cool. I don't think they do enough with the Jedi temple and the Sith temples and everything. I think we're going to see some of that in The Mandalorian. I think they might go back to Mandalore.
Well, they have to go back to Mandalore.
Well, they're going to go to Jedi temples because the little guy's a Jedi. The child.
Yeah.
Little Yoda.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we don't know. It's not Yoda. It's called the child or the baby. But
we don't... Well, do we know if...
We don't know Yoda's species.
Do we know if he's a Jedi?
Well, he's a Force user, so...
That doesn't mean...
I mean, it doesn't...
Shit.
He's not a Jedi. You're right. He's not a Jedi, but he's a Force user.
He's a Force user.
And we know Yoda's species is strong with the Force, so... I mean, obviously, he's strong with the Force, too. He's fucking a child.
and floating.
And picking rhinos up out of the air and stopping flamethrowers. I mean, he got some potential. Healing things.
Well, I think that's why Ahsoka...
He has Force heal. He's like a baby.
I think Ahsoka's going to be in the show is to take the child, or if you don't want to use that, Baby Yoda, away and just, I don't know, teach the kid.
Yes, potentially. We don't know how the aging works, though. Because there's
kid's like 50.
Right, but there's some... People say there's some, like... It's not accurate, because... It can't be accurate. It messes up some of the storyline with Yoda, because Yoda said he was, like, teaching... it's stupid.
Yeah.
It's just people being mad, really. But people don't know how Yoda's species works, is potentially what I'm trying to say.
So, I mean, you could hash that out in this show.
Right.
Is the Mandalorian before Rebels? Is this...
No, Rebels is before A New Hope, but this is after Return of the Jedi. This is 10 years after the Empire falls. The New Republic, or whatever is... What is it called? The New Republic, right?
Yes.
Or the First Order. First Order is, I think, going to be building in this show as well.
So we get to see...
As it goes on.
Potentially Kylo
Ren, maybe.
So...
Maybe in a cameo. Like who? Who knows?
That makes so much...
Bill Burr's supposed to come back.
Well, I mean, I'd be happy with that. I liked him.
No, I thought it was funny.
So that makes the Rebels part of this even more prevalent.
Right, well, because you're thinking Rebels too, because I do this sometimes as well. It's because at the end of Rebels, they fast forward past Return of the Jedi to where they are now.
Right.
But we don't know what happens after that. So we need to find out what happens to Ezra. Like where Ezra is.
Right.
Which I hope they bring Ezra into Mandalorian at the end. I hope that's like part of the
big surprise
at the end, because he should be a very strong Jedi by then.
Yeah.
'Cause when you think about it, he's Luke's age.
Right.
So, and he learned more about the Force before Luke. I mean, Luke has probably a stronger, he's stronger with the Force, obviously.
The bloodline.
But Ezra should still be a very good Force user by that time. And of course, Ahsoka is even further ahead. She bled Sith crystals to make them white, which is insane.
And she's also 100 years old at that point.
Well, she's way past the Jedi, because she wasn't even a Jedi in Rebels and stuff.
Well, what I'm saying is when
that's true too. She's not even a Jedi, so she's
right.
not. She's just going to teach this kid the Force. Not
when Ezra
Jedi.
Well, I'm spoiling Rebels if you haven't seen it, but the show is what?
It's old.
5 years old.
Even if you don't, this doesn't really spoil any. I mean, I would still watch it.
No, I'm not spoiling the end, but Ezra pulls Ahsoka out of when he visits the void.
That kind of spoils it. But yes, he does.
So she's older at that point when we see her in the show. She's a kid in Clone Wars, but she's like a full-grown adult in Rebels. So she's...
But she wasn't that old. In Mandalorian, she'll be older.
Right, which... The casting with Rosario Dawson, I'm psyched because I like Rosario Dawson, but timeline-wise, Ahsoka's old.
60.
Yeah, she's
I mean,
old.
you don't know her species, though.
You got me there. You got me there. Where do you think... Or what do you think's next? Because we have a... We'll end on this. We have announced Mandalorian Season 2. Something going on with Rebels. The Obi-Wan show eventually. In terms of storyline with shows, with Favreau and Filoni in charge of that aspect of Star Wars, what do you think is next?
Well,
Or what would you like to see? Other than the Boba Fett.
Well, I definitely think that... Well, Rebels did Maul, but they didn't do Maul from the time Rebel... I want to see Maul between Rebels and
Clone Wars? Yeah,
Clone Wars, because we get a glimpse of it in Solo, but I want to see more of Crimson Dawn and the crime syndicate going on. So I want to see that. I don't know. I think it might be an Obi-Wan show, but Maul also hasn't seen Obi-Wan, so I don't... Obi-Wan was with... on Tatooine with Luke, so I don't think he was doing anything really.
You know what I think who we might see in the Obi-Wan show?
Who?
Hondo.
Maybe. I love Hondo. Hondo's hilarious.
We might see Hondo in various run-ins with Obi-Wan in the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah. Hondo's so funny.
Because that would be great. There's a billion things they could do with the Obi-Wan show.
Yeah.
Because we have young Luke. We don't know what that kid looks like or what the hell his non-force training but kind of honing his abilities as a young kid look like.
Is he just gonna be like a policeman on Tatooine though? As far as I understand,
Star Wars RoboCop.
That's because as far as I know, I thought Obi-Wan was just on Tatooine the whole time, watching after Luke to make sure nothing happened to him. But maybe he was going on some side missions. But he was supposed to be in hiding the whole time, so I don't know.
Maybe it's just one season.
Maybe
it's just one 10-episode season.
It could be early on. Who
like
knows?
Like
when he's still getting training from Yoda and stuff like that.
You're saying it's still on Tatooine? It's just him as it
younger,
right after Episode 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe 5 years.
Okay.
Because it's still Ewan McGregor, who's supposed to be Obi-Wan.
What might happen? Him versus Vader.
I mean, maybe, potentially. But again, I don't think they saw each other.
Maybe not.
Well, I don't think he knew he was alive. Like Obi-Wan. I don't think it's going to be Vader. I want to see that, though. I want a Vader show. I've been saying this for a long time. I want a Vader show. I want Vader to just go around blowing shit up. I think that would be awesome.
And teaching Inquisitors and stuff like that?
Teaching people how to blow shit up. How to destruction.
So do we get the Emperor in that too?
Yeah, just I just want a Vader. I want a Vader show.
That would be awesome.
I want him at his temple. Him doing Vader things. whatever Vader does. Maybe it's like those YouTube parodies we used to watch. Go get me my muffin.
Oh my God, the college humor. Here's your bear claw, sir. Bear claw. I don't know where your bear claw. Oh, it's you. You know we have a floor dedicated to monsters. Yeah, monster floor.
This ship is the size of a planet.
All right, I think that's a good place to end. Vin, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This won't be the last time. We will definitely talk some NBA when the NBA comes back at the end of July. And that whole mess, if that actually happens, because people are pulling out. But this was a good... I mean, this is different. I haven't done an episode like this ever on the podcast. So it was good to dive a little bit deeper into something that I love besides sports. And I mean, if there's a new show announced or something major happens with Star Wars, I'll have you on again with this. But I know you want to keep your socials under lock and chain. For now, I might break it eventually. But on this side, notthefake.sports.blogspot.com, and of course this podcast. We've reached 200 episodes. And we're trending upwards. There's a whole bunch more in the works. There's a bunch of sponsors that I'm lining up that will be awesome for you guys to get a piece of, and just more great stuff, more new guests. I'm trying to get my other brother on this podcast as well. A little bit of Fortnite, maybe a little bit of Twitch. Maybe I'll have both of you on for that to talk Twitch and video games and Fortnite and COD and
I'll be down for that.
all that sort of stuff. So until next time, have a great weekend, and it's closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Peace.